The halls of justice often echo with the heavy footsteps of those seeking closure, but inside the courtroom of Judge Judy Justice, there was a peculiar air of anticipation. The case was numbered as 3056, a dispute titled O'Barron versus Williams. It was more than a legal battle. It was a final chapter of a story that began in the year 2021 and reached its complicated conclusion in the year 2022. Blondie O'Barron, a man whose life had been recently defined by a wheelchair and a resilient spirit, sat across from Sherilla Williams, a woman with whom he had once shared a home and a future. The room fell silent as the bailiff called the court to order. All rise, he commanded, and the presence of the honorable judge filled the room. She was a woman of immense wisdom, a beacon of clarity in the murky waters of human disagreement. "Have a seat, please," she said, her voice steady and welcoming. "Hello, Judge," the participants responded. The judge looked at Blondie and Sherilla, noting the history written in their weary eyes. "Mr. O'Barron," she began, looking at the man in the wheelchair. "You and the defendant were a couple for a while. Is that correct?" "Yes," Blondie replied. He traced the timeline of their lives together, from the hopeful days of 2021 until the cooling embers of their relationship in October of 2022. There was a moment of confusion regarding the dates, a simple slip of the tongue where Blondie mentioned 2023, but the judge, with a gentle smile, reminded him that they had not yet reached that future. It was October of 2022. Blondie corrected himself. "My bad." They had lived together in an apartment, a lease signed in both their names in June of 2022. It was a time that should have been a celebration of a new beginning, but fate had other plans. In that very same month, on the 23rd day of June, Blondie's life changed forever. He had been shot during an altercation involving family members and acquaintances. When the judge inquired about the circumstances, Blondie explained the chaotic scene. "I had a gun myself, and then the gun happened to go off," he recounted. It was a moment of misfortune, a collision of paths that led to him being hospitalized for 3 to 4 months. During those long months in the hospital and the subsequent months that followed, the foundation of their relationship began to crumble. Blondie was later incarcerated from October until April, a period where his income, primarily from disability payments, continued to flow into a shared bank account. This was the heart of the dispute. Blondie felt that his money had been stolen. "She stole it," he claimed, his voice tinged with the pain of perceived betrayal. He questioned how the rent was to be paid if he was not there, even though he argued that the rent had been prepaid for several months. Judge Judy, always a seeker of practical truths, asked how Sherilla was expected to maintain their home while Blondie was away. The rent was $750 a month. Sherilla stood tall, her voice clear as she explained her side of the story. "I roughly spent maybe $3,000 on bills," she stated. She spoke of food, utilities, and the necessity of keeping a roof over their heads. She also mentioned her car note, explaining that Blondie had agreed to support her because she had stopped working as a medical office receptionist to take care of him after the shooting. Blondie had been living with her prior to that, without paying bills, and she felt that his disability money was their shared lifeline. The judge listened, weighing the scales of responsibility. She asked Blondie if the statements Sherilla made were accurate. Somewhat, he admitted, though he felt the weight of his own struggles overshadowed the shared expenses. He spoke of a GoFundMe page he had started from his hospital bed, which had collected $2,800. He had used that money for his own needs upon his release, as he had Medicaid to cover his hospital bills. The courtroom then heard from a witness, Ms. Moore, the mother of Blondie's child. She brought to light a separate incident that had occurred before the shooting, involving a dispute over mail and a crowbar. It was a moment that revealed the volatility that had haunted Blondie's path. He had pleaded guilty to assault on a nephew during that event, which had led to probation and subsequent legal troubles. The judge sighed, seeing the pattern of a man who had faced many hurdles, some of his own making and some thrust upon him by circumstance. Sherilla, in her counterclaim, spoke of the property damage she had endured. She described a scene of anger where Blondie had allegedly torn up a wardrobe and damaged televisions. However, the police report told a simpler story, focusing on a broken iPhone, shattered on both the front and the back. Blondie denied the damage, claiming instead that he had been the one struck from behind while reaching for the refrigerator. In the end, the judge looked at both of them with a sense of profound human concern. "Your counterclaim is dismissed," she told Sharila. "So is your claim, sir," she said to Blondie. She saw two people who had once cared for each other but were now caught in a cycle of hurt and misunderstanding. "I suggest you stay far away from each other," the judge advised. She emphasized the importance of safety and the need for a fresh start. "If he has violent propensities, you think twice," she warned Sharila, urging her to be smart and protect her future. The court adjourned, and the two walked out separate doors into the light of a new day. Sharila felt a sense of relief, a determination to move on for the sake of her children. Blondie, though still carrying the weight of his losses, expressed a quiet forgiveness. "I guess she needed the money more than I do," he mused. "I am not really mad about it. It is okay." As they left the building, the story of Blondie and Sharila became a lesson in the complexity of human relationships. It was a reminder that love can be tested by tragedy, and that sometimes the most courageous act is to let go and find peace in the distance. The values of education, respect, and self-preservation remained the true winners of the day, as both individuals were given a chance to rebuild their lives, one step and one choice at a time. The courtroom was empty now, but the echo of the judge's wisdom remained, a silent guide for all who might find themselves at a crossroads of the heart.